各位观众，大家好，欢迎收看路德视频之路安莫旁谈啊。今天是2022。
So good morning, supporters and patriots. Welcome to Luda Media. And today is January 7th, 2021, and it's 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time. And many audiences are just looking forward for our show to start, and for these few years, no matter what happened, our Luda Media would always be online. For yesterday, you can see that the congressional certification has already finished, and we can see that they have certified that Joe Biden would be the president of this, and we'll be looking at the President Trump's statement, and we'll just look back on what has happened and what would the future be, so first of all, An Hong, please share.
今天呢，第一条呢来自香港前沿，就是黄营的大小公司已经开始陆陆续续收到或者是遭到各种清算，这是中共口里的报复，或者说是港共这里的报复。比如说有个例子哈，有位梁姓小姐就说她有2个那个公司账户，那么一切运营正常，但竟然呢要被封要被查。So
there is a lady who has this bank accounts, but those bank accounts are suspended, and from this we can see that Hong Kong is completely under this CP's control, and for those people who has participated in this Hong Kong movement, those people would be punished by the CCP, and this would even be worse in the future. And for Australia, there is a Senate who is a Rex Patrick, and he accused of CCP to crush their promises to Hong Kong to give them the freedom and democracy, and he is asking the Australian Prime Minister to broaden the path of this immigration. And we'll be talking about other news later in the talk show. Dr. Mao, please share.
Mr. Luda, Miss An Hong, Dr. Tong, hello everyone. So here I'd like to first analyze that the situation back in China is getting more and more serious. Multiple places have already sent out messages talking about preventing external problems and internal issues as well. So they're taking very strict measures, and also in Shijiazhuang and also in Liaoning, the CCP across the entirety of mainland China, they're reducing people's ability to go outside. They don't want people to travel at all for the Spring Festival, although that's an opportunity for people to make a lot of money. But this year, they're not allowing it. This means there must be a lot of reasons behind the scenes. They need Chinese people to reduce their mobility and stay put firmly where they are. So the CCP is going to be, it's much like when the CCP pushed forward its land reform and cultural revolution. When people are not on the move, that's when they're the easiest to control. Their food, everything can be more easily controlled. That means the CCP believes there's going to be a major resistance up ahead, so they want to plan to force everyone to be stationary on at their current location. This means the CCP is facing a lot of serious problems. Also, their water, electricity, natural gas, they're reducing, they say they want to reduce companies' monopolies. The real monopoly is actually in the CCP, but they're talking about at the lowest level of white gloves, they want to reduce the so-called monopoly. This actually just means that their shortages of energy is actually very severe now. They even have to reduce state-owned enterprises' usage of resources. Also, they're talking about 320 billion dollars worth of reserves, but the CCP is already poor. They can't even buy paper anymore. So actually, even paper is going to have to be severely rationed. Besides, so I think they probably won't even have 32 billion. They're very poor. All right. Hello, everybody. I just have 2 points to make. First is that Mr. Rudy Giuliani, President Trump's personal lawyer, an hour ago sent out a tweet. He said, we've talking about what happened yesterday at the U.S. Capitol, these riots that occurred. He's saying we can't. He's saying we don't accept any kind of violent behavior. Also saying we have to continue to maintain to count every legal vote. And also Janet Ellis, President Trump's constitutional lawyer, she also sent out a message saying, be still, and I know that I am God. It's letting everybody maintain quiet to know that I am God. This is a message from in the Bible. All right, thank you. I'll just share up to there. Thank you.
So for yesterday, the certification has finished, and for Arizona, it was like 93 versus 6, and the certification failed. And for the senators, there are over 163 senators sent out and certify this result. And for this procedure, they have changed this process. So for this congressional procedure, this has been changed because Constitution didn't say that what will happen after this debate, and for this voting on a procedure in the Constitution, it didn't mention that who would be the winner out of this certification process. And this is also just follow the Constitution. But after this process, we can see that no doubt those Democrats and those Republican establishment parties, they control this process. But we can still see that these 6 brave senators still stands up. But they didn't gain any results from this. And you have to know that this happened in the late midnight. And for the Josh Hawley, he stood out every time, and this would be certified in history. And for these, if they just challenge this the states and the debate and they finish their speech at the debate, and for the last state, for the senators, for the last state, there'll be no one standing out while they're debating over the last state, and they didn't even just have any speech. And according to constitutional laws, this would certify that Biden would be the president. Elect. And so the law procedure is basically finished. And for this spokesperson, he tweeted this kind of statement on the Twitter. And even though I totally disagree with the outcome of the election, and the facts bear me out, nevertheless, there will be an orderly transition on January 20th. I have always said we would continue our fight to ensure the only legal votes are counted. While this represents the end of the greatest first term in presidential history, it's only the beginning of our fight to make America great again. So, so from these, there are many people commenting on this. For then, we just assume that he's speaking for President Trump, and they said, and the facts bear me out. And for the facts, we didn't see the facts, and we were counting on those Senate would give some actual evidence, but there is no evidence. No evidence to be exposed, and this is quite a pale statement. And so from the perspective of the law system, and this statement would make President Trump seems like he would transit his presidential power. What do you think? So first of all, I think because Mike Pence announced this publicly, and compared with those things he has done before, and he said he would fight for the truth, for the righteousness. But in the process of he like reading those scripts, and he didn't even dare to keep his head up. So from his body language, we can see he's weak inside. And for these law process, Biden will be the president. And from this tweet, I don't know if he represents President Trump, but those words would be thought-provoking. And they're saying, well, this represents the end of the Grace's first term. And for the orderly transition, would there be another process of counting those legal votes? And what will happen if they're just counting the votes once again? And what would happen? That being said, many things would also happen. So from these, we can find out those details. We can put a question mark. But President Trump doesn't have enough time to I know our supporters and patriots might be impatient, but we have to understand that be objective. And a few days ago, our new president of China, we have said these Mike Pence would just send Mr. Lula back to China while he became the vice president elect. So I just want to use another proverb to make this end. What will coming will still be coming, and this will just only awake American people. Back to you, Luda. So I was just talking about that on the perspective of the law system and the Congress just certifying Joe Biden to become the president-elect. And I couldn't just make another statement just in case YouTube would block my account. But this is a battle. We're always at this World War III. And for President Trump, if he couldn't make this announcement himself, we'll just wait for this. And for example, in my previous episodes, I have discussed this kind of thing about my briefcase was robbed, and I called the police, and the police said you can't just go chasing them because you have to wait for this mob to be 1 meter away. and then you can just call the police. Otherwise, those people would just think you're just joking around, and you're just messing up with them. So if you can catch this thief within a meter, and then you wouldn't be able to solve justice in the courts. And if you go to the lawyer, and they wouldn't say you are robbed by this man, and therefore for these, they have to wait for this crime is actually committed. So for many of our audiences, they're just wondering why would they not suing this person while they were robbed, because you have to wait for them to finish this process for this crime has been done, just from perspective of the law. And after that, you can just overturn the situation. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. And for those people who understands laws and who has experience for the lawsuits, and they would be quite concerned about whether these would be able to arrest them or jail them. And from the congressional certification, if the Congress certify Joe Biden, then the law will certify Joe Biden. And we'll be still talking about the interview with Maria Viagno, and the law is just one narrative from the human history. Otherwise, our human being wouldn't make it this far. And if there is only a law system, then there wouldn't be such great nation as America, because in the Old Testament they only care about the laws and regulations, those Moses' 10 Amendments. And in the end, there is another New Testament, but we're just not attacking those Jews, but we're just talking about the Christian civilization, because for the Jews, they only care about those laws, those words. That's why those Israel, why would they bear such punishment? Because they're thinking they're stick to God's words. They're stick to the God's laws, but they're not. They don't love God, and they are punished all over the world. And for this Christian those revolution in the 10th century, and Martin Luther, and for those Christian revolution is too much, and that would just result in those Israel, after they have made it out of the Egypt, and they were just fell in another trap. And to the medieval century, and this has been also been too much for the revolution. And for the human history, there is always this circulation going on. And after this humankind, they're trapped for a period of time, and they would be used by those dark power. And due to these circumstances, those people, those righteous people, they will stand out and challenge those situation. And at this time, our human society, they still have this kind of courage to challenge. So if we just follow the Old Testament, this human society, and first of all, the Lord wouldn't become our a true God. Therefore, because if you don't have these people to be the successor of this civilization, because for example, if you burn those books 1,000 years ago, this Christian civilization wouldn't be continued to nowadays societies. And if you read the Bibles, you have to be able to break those regulations because for Jesus himself, he is a Jew and he's also the son of the God. And at that time, those people are just clinging to those Old Testament, and Jesus just broke those regulations. The prostitutes can still believe in God, and this is the most important thing in the New Testament. Apart from those love and read things in the New Testament, while the Old Testament just only give you those laws and freedom, and then in the New Testament there is also the spirit of contract, and currently according to the sources, President Trump went to Texas. Anhong, please share. Dr. Mo, please share.
Right, and here I also realized that President Trump on January 6th, he already started the three major media, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. They've started freezing his accounts. So they've been waiting for this moment to take the opportunity to totally cut off his opportunity to speak out. So now people are going to be it's really hard for them to obtain truthful information because including the truth, including what we can hear, it's all something we have trouble following up on because everything we obtain, it's all the mainstream media and the forces behind them that controls all of this, and this is very scary. And even what's clearly truth no longer can be verified. And President Trump, he still is the president, but they could cut off. This is really a degradation. And I remember Mr. Luda said that the situation today, why is it a great reset? You have to let all of the forces, all of the people around the world start to realize that if we don't have a great reset, if we don't, how do you let everybody know that our system has started to be corrupt and rotting, that there's no way for it to go back? This is a very important matter. And also, we don't have the ability, or who has the ability to complete this. If we can't complete the reset, as long as as long as the light fails, then the system will fail. I saw a movie about the hackers. No matter how advanced, how perfect the system is, once it faces an attack and it can't counter or adjust, then even that system will be destroyed as well. So I think right now we're facing this time, but the point in time hasn't yet arrived because most people haven't yet realized that the entire society and human society requires a reset. Not enough people yet understand. Thank you, Luda.
So for these few days, we've been talking about this interview with this archbishop because some people are quite confused about those words from Linwood and Sidney Powell, and for Archbishop, he didn't have to be on those media, but he would spread his words through those networks built through thousands of years. And while those words this would be spread. I got this PDF through Mr. Bannon, and those interviews are just spreading all over the world. And this is true voice, and this is something that is beyond the aspect of those human laws. And for Dr. Tan, please share your opinions.
Thank you, Luda. What happened yesterday is, in American history, it's unprecedented. And at the time, Bannon on the War Room, he was very serious. He said, today, in American history, we have to remember this, what happened, everything that happened today. And he was very serious. And we discussed this, that Dan Scavino, he's an assistant for President Trump, he forwarded a tweet, and his message was that it shows that the first term, it mentions the first term, and having passing through the time of the transition. He didn't mention Biden. He said we have to keep fighting. He said all of the legal votes have to continue counting. And I think that this fight far and away is not yet finished. I think it's going to have to go in an emergency appeal to the Supreme Court, although a lot of people believe that this will be useless because the Supreme Court already said they don't want to hear the case. I think this is the last step. And basically, the Supreme Court at the legal level, they've already certified Biden, but I think the Supreme Court, maybe in another appeal, could succeed. And also Lin Wood, his Twitter account was also frozen, including President Trump's Twitter account. Lin Wood and Sidney Powell, they've both gone to Parler to continue their message. He was very, very clear about this long ago. He said that at any moment in time, America only has one president. So before January 20th, President Trump will still be our only president. So Lin Wood also said that President Trump, he's in Texas, Western Texas, visiting the military base. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think President Trump and his team will definitely continue to research and discuss what their next steps going forward should be. So at the legal level, we'll just have to wait and see what they'll do. Thank you, Luda.
So for this interview, we can see that the content, this hasn't been exposed in the media, but they have another way to spread this voice. So no matter this Twitter, those big tech, what they will do, the voice of the righteousness and truth will still spread out. And for this battlefield, no matter how CCP has infiltrated those American system, and because I have just mentioned, no matter what you have challenged this law system, because you only have this few people who will stand out and fight for the Constitution, because there are way more people that are helping. There are the accomplices of this devil, but for this law system, it will only be this few people, this few hundreds people. They are representing those tens of million people, because for those people, they come out through the so-called election, and if they can manipulate this election process, those people are just are just muted. And for this power of darkness, they're just called the Great Reset. And for us, for our University of China, we are the awakening people. And for the Great Reset, and they would lead human being. They were just going to another dark era, and they're just challenging the Christian civilization through this thousands of years. And therefore, for our supporters and for the supporters of the University of China and supporters of Trump administration, you are not fight alone. But most people, they don't know the truth, because some people are just preparing to resign, because in the battlefield, in World War II, even if they're winning, but those soldiers are still prepared to go back home. And some audiences are just wondering, we're just imagining those situation, but from at this moment, we can see that you couldn't solve all these issues through the law system, because you have to just go to another higher level. This war must be upgraded, because we have discussed that Trump is only a small part in this battlefield. Because for the archbishop, he stood out himself, and he couldn't represent all the power, but there's definitely another force that made him to stand out and talk about those deep state and deep church. So for this interview, he would definitely going to be threatened, because he's not a deplorable. Because you have to know that America, in America, those churches, they cannot make any comments on those political things. And however, for Trump, in 2017, he gave this presidential order to give those churches the right to talk about the politics. And for such an influential people, the archbishop has spread those significant information, because his words were definitely going to be heard by those billions of people through the thousands of years, those influence. And for those people who are supporting President Trump, and if you're going to sell a ticket in Washington, okay, they will say, yes, of course, I'll just go there. But if you're just saying you will drive all the way to Washington just for supporting President Trump, that will be much more difficult. And for the Congress has certified these results, and it would be inconvenient for us to talk about this in this episode. But for our audiences, you can just go further according to this logic, because I've mentioned my briefcase was already taken away by the man, but I have to wait. But I have to wait, and otherwise this man was just saying, "Hey man, chill. I just want to mess up with you." So you have to wait for your briefcase was already taken away, because they're just saying, this is only my intention. I didn't do such things. So this is just a metaphor. Anhong, please share. So this is I have this experience from my Australian friends, and these people just going around and taking away these briefcases, and after that he would just return it away, and he would just return it. And since there are too many cases, the police just arrest him. And for this man, he would just said, I have this evil intention to to steal these briefcases. But after 20 minutes, my good intention just conquered my evil intentions, so I just returned it. So from Lude's experience, I hope our audiences could understand. So on Parkland, we can see that Linwood said this, for those evidence have been quite clear, and for those criminals, they have been exposed. So next step, this would be a process to for the judge and why have we been just talking about this interview with this archbishop? And from this, I just want to mention that from yesterday's examples, we have been talking about those the Chinese government before 1949. This has been approved by the Vatican City, but for the PRC, this has never been approved by the Vatican City. And we can just think about why. And even though you're just saying you have kicked out those Taiwan of the UN, and for those CCP members, they're just laughing in their seats. They're just thinking like, we have occupied this land, and they can just enslave those Chinese people. Are you really thinking your corruption, those BGY plan could work? And from this world's religions perspective, they are not approved by the Vatican City, and they have never earned this position in the world to have their voice heard by the international societies. They're not legal. And even though we can see that Congress has certified Joe Biden will be the president, but we're just seeing what will be going on in the future. And for Mr. Luda, New Philosophy of China, we have said that even though this was certified through the law system, but we have talked about back in Lincoln's era, he just arrested those Supreme Court judge, and he would still do what he can during those last few days of his presidential term. And we have discussed about the Emergency Act and all those acts, and which act would he use? It just depends on President Trump's courageous. And for our supporters, many of our supporters came to me and asked, why would this be end up like this? Because we have seen President Trump in the media, we just saw him as such a negative figure about flirting with all those female, but he is not 100% relying on Mike Pence, but Mike Pence just betrayed him. So for this period from December 17th, we can see Vice President Pence have all these wonderful speeches, but till yesterday, he couldn't even be able to keep his head up. And for President Trump, he finally realized that those people around him, those FBI saying, those agents, even those staff chief, medals, and for all those people he once trusted, even though and even including those Vice President Pence, those people all have betrayed him. And for our supporters, we have to spread and share the truth, just to spread the voice of righteousness. Back to Luda. So for President Trump, there is an important a line in this tweets. He would fight to ensure that only legal votes were counted. So that being said, I could give up those presidential I can just give up being this president, but I have to make sure American people's rights are guaranteed because if you could ensure not only legal votes were counted, and the CCP would definitely going to be destroyed. And because this system has this kind of those mistakes, and if Joe Biden could really be elected as president, and no one is concerned, then nobody would be worried. And for those 73 million American people, they just want to figure out what happened. And even Archbishop, those forces, they want to figure out what happened, because for American president, to be honest, if you're going to fight against the CCP, just like what I've discussed, so if you're going to fight with CCP, just they will purely depend on Americans' power, you couldn't win this battle. We have to go beyond, because if you cannot just use a state apparatus, because we have found the president is quite passive within this unrestricted warfare, and he couldn't do anything. And the president and the American president is even weaker than Archbishop. And for the European countries, they have changed all the time, but they have to collaborate with this Vatican City, because in the Vatican City they have this kind of hidden and secret organization. They can just use their power. And also CCP also use this unrestricted and evil power. And since you are the president and you're using taxpayers' money, and that is why you have to abide by law. And if all those things in the world has to be done through the law, then this wouldn't work out, because through this thousands of years of human history, all those times they go back to the right track. They're just not counting on the laws. This is all just depends on which side you're on. Are you on the side of the son of dark or children of light? So from this interview, for those information, definitely from these we can see that he will continue to fight, and he only have this 2 weeks to have this presidential power. And at this time, CCP is most terrified only from this moment, because they only have this 13 days, and this would be the ultimate war. And President Trump, he doesn't care about the present position. After CCP is taken down, I can just give you the position. So for these 13 days, if you do the several things, then CCP would be ended within 72 hours. For a new Federal of China, we only want CCP to be taken down. So for this moment, President Trump just realized that he still have all these methods to overturn the situation, and those people are just talking about the resignation of those staff chief and those people, but we're just only targeting CCP, and I hope our audiences can understand this. Dr. Mo, for sure.
I think probably a little bit. I've thought that a lot of people, especially today, a lot of our friends have sent messages that this issue, their mood has gotten worse. That saying that President Trump has lost the legal case. A lot of people support him is because he's an anti-CCP. he's the most resolute anti-CCP. But this doesn't mean that in order to oppose the CCP, we can only rely on Trump. President Trump, he's facing this situation, and so it's creating doubt among the anti-CCP forces. Are you saying that if he doesn't win, you won't oppose the CCP? If this is saying that your awareness of anti-CCP is only he's just the greatest force for opposing the CCP. He is the greatest, the strongest person to fight them. But whether this means you want to oppose or destroy the CCP shouldn't have any relationship whatsoever. So this anti-CCP thinking there shouldn't be a discrepancy. And also, when I was young, I liked to look at these movies from Hong Kong. What attracted me the most was because back then, all the different people, when they had, you would say they had to win. You have to turn the tables, and this first step from which that came is that personal behavior. And the question is, in the next 10 or so days, will there be something like that as well? So to end, there's several different ways to end this. I think there's about 2 weeks, and we'll see. Thank you, Luda.
Definitely, we have never said that the January 6th will be the end. At the time, what do you think of this?
文贵先生也多次说到，这是很多个月前就已经说到，大家不等到1月20号。
Okay. Right, as Mr. Miles Guo has said multiple times, that everybody, not even waiting until January 20th for the next president to formally take office, we shouldn't believe that. We have plenty of time. We've said this before, that it's like playing chess. Don't be so scared. We've seen first of all, yesterday, from the legal basis, the two houses of Congress certified Joe Biden as the next president of the United States. But the Congress, they haven't resigned yet, and there's a problem with that. And secondly, the election fraud problem, no matter how many legal votes were selected, how many illegal were thrown away, the danger of this still exists. So if in the future you continue to have this kind of fraud, then the country will not be able to continue. So you need to resolve this election fraud issue. Otherwise, whatever party is in charge, it won't be a safe result. And also, the next 13 days, President Trump has a lot of intelligence agencies. He has military power that still supports him. Also, he has enough of the CCP virus, CCP fraud in the U.S. election. He has evidence of that. So let's put the two houses of Congress certifying Biden to one side. Beneath President Trump, the people that can expose the truth of the CCP virus, if they can take out that evidence, I think that should he say I should just directly go to war against the CCP, destroy the CCP? Can he do that in the next 13 days? If he wants to say to the whole world, or the danger to the United States, then he'll at least have achieved a goal, an important goal. So at this level of the swamp, these different forces being exposed, before January 20th, I'm confident there will be a turnover. Thank you, Luda.
So for these things, our supporters needs to be patient because President Trump once gave this executive order for all those things for interfere with this U.S. election order. And if this is just a simple order, then if you're just saying I have this intelligence information that they would do something to affect this U.S. election, you would only give those people time to correct their strategies. And for those UK history, and Napoleon could just conquer all those battlefields. Why are they being such an invincible? Because they're just 1 second later than you to pull the trigger. Because at the time it was difficult to aim because for those people who shoot earlier, they couldn't aim precisely. Therefore, you have to just get closer, because if you are just too far from the aims, it would be difficult for you to shoot at the first shot. So for the UK's armies, they have just calculated, because within these 15 meters, the closer you get, the more accurate, more precise those people will get. And if you just could just get close enough to like 10 meters, and those armies can still conquer those people. This is just a psychological warfare, because while the other people are preparing for more ammo, those UK armies, they're still approaching, and even though you're just have given those 2 shots, and the UK soldiers were still approaching, and this would oppress those people psychologically, and they would just be crushed. So therefore, the last shot matters the most. And we have discussed that this executive order was came out in 2019, and for those intelligence report hasn't come out yet. And if this report came out too early, and even if this report came out, and those people would just say this wouldn't be enough to arrest them, because you don't have any facts, you don't have enough evidence to show they would commit this crime. And for this archbishop, they're just saying you have to fight against them with this 1,000 years of Christian civilization. And those are the words from the archbishop. Please do not just think President Trump is only fighting for the president position, for his presidential power, and he didn't even, he only got this $1 per year. And for the archbishop, why didn't he choose President Trump? Why didn't he choose Mr. Bannon? And so we can see that President Trump is the chosen one. And for these things could be solved through this presidential power, then this wouldn't be on Trump's and they just know that if the president is restricted by those media, those other power, and if you can still continue to fight, and this is what matters the most. And those people are just talking about President Trump doesn't have any power. And the reason why Jesus is great is because he has no power. Because if he could do anything he wants, and he wouldn't be such a great, such wonderful figure. And for the new federal state of China, it's because we don't have any power. And this is just the same for President Trump. And for him, he's okay with those transition. And even if he doesn't have any power, I can still reveal the truth, and this is what matters the most. And this is where the greatness is. And the shows only started at this time, because if those people only carry those cannons and those guns, and for the other people only have this knife, this is just a shameful battle. And just like those Hollywood movie, those people at the end, they don't have any weapon. They just having this pure fight. And those battles are just the most amazing ones. And this U.S. election would be the start of this the most important decision of humankind. And for the U.S. election, for our audiences, they only care about your future, because President Trump is definitely anti-CCP, and after CCP is destroyed, maybe our audiences wouldn't care that much about the U.S. election. And to be honest, after World War II, the U.S. election doesn't matter that much, because for the American system, if this machine could work, the president is not necessary, because you just need to follow the trend, and just like in the movie, you would just enjoy your meal and follow the historic trend. And the greatness of American presidents, while the whole country is at crisis, the president will be at least these capable people who have the power to overturn the situation, because through this unrestricted warfare, this is not that simple, and the influence towards CCP is not that simple. And for Ahong, please share. And Lu Xun have this proverb, and in China there's seldom the warriors are rare. There are just a few people who dare to stand out and challenge the situation. And I will just repeat those senators: Holly, Cruz, Kennedy, Marshall, and those senators who have this courageous to stand out and challenge these results. And we have seen that, we have heard those names that of those senators. They're just saying they would stand out and challenge, but in the end, only 6 stood out to challenge these results. And we can see that under this difficult situation, we can still see this 6 warriors standing out and fight against those dark power. And for our new federal state of China, we have this determinants to fight against the children of the dark. And through this few years, we have had our mind settled. We could be rational and calm. We just be patient until the last stand. Because Certainly, we can see that for such a dictatorship, the so-called dictator of the United States, he only got $4 for the wages, and such a wonderful people are being defamed by the media as a dictator, and in the end, he was even muted by Twitter and Facebook, and he wouldn't spread his voice, and he could just only go to parkland to say something. And from this we can see that for the Washington March, even that many people just went to Washington to support Trump, and we can see how furious those American people are about this rigged election. And for other power, you can see from this US election, and for University of China, we can see in the future 13 days, we'll just feel so lucky to see such a great show. And please do not forget to like this video. And why are we just saying to like the Luda media? Because for those CCP cyber armies, they would just go to dislike these videos and to report this video, because through those likes, they wouldn't delete our video, because if you have that many likes, we could just and share and spread those truth, this video. Dr. Ma, please share.
President Trump, I think it's like an ancient Chinese saying. So at an extraordinary time, you have to endure the difficulties until you could do something that's very extraordinary. So if you look at American history, this is the president who's been attacked the most severely, and he has faced difficulties that no other has faced. He has endured the biggest humiliation, betrayal, attacks, slander, but he's still there, and that shows his abilities. So it's not saying that not everybody that supports him, that follows him, and also destroying the CCP. Actually, this road, President Trump is a great guide in a pillar, but he's not the core reason for it. Destroying the CCP will always be an issue for the Chinese people themselves. President Trump will always be our best friend, but a lot of people in their hearts take down the CCP. It's President Trump. Whatever happens to him does not impact our final goal. So you won't care so much about whether he's president or not, or whether so much as he's going to help us achieve this. And also at this point in time, if you allow evil people to reveal themselves, then it's hard for you to identify and destroy them. So whether the people who can play cards, the most meaningless, most uninteresting way of playing cards. Now we have to ask, what kind of people, even if their cards are really bad, or they can't. So the true talent is to pull the enemy out and to use their weaknesses against them. So what kind of person can always find the opponent's weaknesses? So you have to have this kind of ability. All right, thank you, Luda.
So for Gordon Trump, and it said that for CCP, they have secretly plot to have this Washington march. It's violent to have those violent protesters and planning to overthrow the American government. And for CCP, they couldn't just say you have this intention and you can arrest them, because they have these intentions, and you couldn't just arrest someone because they have this evil intention. So for the righteous people, they have to wait for this process to be finished. So Bannon had just asked, you have warned that those in deep state and deep church have colluded to, and for Archbishop, for his for the intelligence from their aspect to have colluded to plot a various way to overthrow Benedict as well as President Trump. Besides McCarrick, who else is behind this infernal alliance, and how do Catholics undermine and expose it? And for Mike Pence, and I have released this a voice message, and those people are just saying, no, I believe Mike Pence would do those good things, and you have to, and for those people, they have to wait for the dagger to stab at their heart. They would just believe those things would happen, and they wouldn't believe it until the dagger is put in their hearts, and they wouldn't believe that those people would betray them. And for these, you can see that there is a group of conspirators who have worked and still work in the heart of church for the interest of the elite, and most of them are identifiable. And the most dangerous people are those people who are still hidden, because since 2018, and Miles Guo has been just always talking about for those people, he cared about this exposure, and for those people who are defaming the new federal state of China, because as such a public figure was trying to have more enemies, because with one less enemies, you probably could have one more friend. But our new federal state of China, we just want as much as those people to be exposed. And for those hidden power, they're the most dangerous. And for this unrestricted warfare, those hidden power, the most scary ones. And for the ultimate war, is crucial. It's quite critical to identify who are the enemies, because for the new federal state of China, since March, we can see that President Trump's life was in danger, because for those people around him, they're those hidden power, and the CP is quite nervous about Dr. Leno Yan, and they didn't expect there are people at this position who have this courageous to stand out and challenge the CCP regime, because for the unrestricted warfare is completely different from those traditional warfare, because once you have exposed yourself, you'll be dead. And just like those people around Kennedy, those hidden power are the most dangerous. And for Francis, and And those people, they would like to transform the Vatican into a retirement home for pops and demolishing the papacy and securing power, exactly the same as what happens in the deep state. They just want to transform the Vatican into a retirement home, and they just want to destroy the Vatican power. And this is just like the deep state. So with overthrowing this deep state, that would mean just to overturn the American system. They just want to make the White House to be like the retirement home, and just like the Congress, because through these 4 years of the past 4 years, we can see that Congress has completely overturned the American system, and for transforming the Vatican into a retire home for the pops. It's just one sample away, and these three things are essential. First of all, becoming aware of what globalism's plan is, and to what extent is instrumental to the establishment of the kingdom of the Antichrist, and they have already said it. And secondly, firmly denouncing this infernal plan and asking the shepherds of the church and also the laity to defend her, breaking our complicit silence. God will demand of them an account for their desertion, because in America, those shepherds, they have influence, and they're approved by the Vatican City. And finally, it is necessary to pray, asking the Lord to grant each one of us to strengthen to resist. And St. Peter warns us against the ideological tyranny that is daily imposed on us, not only by the media, but also by the cardinals and bishops who are under thumb. And if we can prove ourselves strong in facing this trial, and then the Lord will permit us to see, at least for now, the defeat of the assault of the children of darkness against God and man. If our spiritual complicity would follow the prince of the world, we would be condemned. I tremble for those who do not realize their responsibility, and to those who fight to defend the rights of the God, the nation, the Lord assures His protection, and the Archbishop would protect us, and he has placed His most Holy Mother at our side, and we invoke her faithfully during these
as
difficult
Luda
times.
said, I think this information it's really important. I never realized that you've said it several times that Jesus and so I never realized that this could really, that when facing this kind of issue, that you could mention this is really just in human history the first great war to come out. I think President Trump, he knows that the deep state and what this great reset, they want to rule over the people of the world, and this and shut off the people's voices. But I think what they're leading to is everybody in their hearts, they're very to be simple, doubt, fear, sadness, but I can understand. But I'll give an example. In America, in the Western U.S. right now, the cowboys, it's very fair. Everybody at the same time, when the clock strikes at 12 o'clock, the rule is that nobody else is allowed to do something. But there's a lot of in their emotional war as well. Some people could do it very well, but it requires an emotional fortitude. If you do it slowly, if you're too slow, then you can't defeat your opponent. So the most important thing is who strikes accurately. If you just hit the leg, then it may not be of any value. So you have to have a stronger heart than everybody else. You have to have a stronger fighting spirit, more courage and will. And as Mr. Miles has said, talking about Mr. Bannon, everybody can go check. It will never take a step backwards. Even if you bite this thing, it still won't give up. So this is since ancient Greece, the spirit of always fighting, never giving up. Train yourself to see the entire development of history. Everybody has to have courage. You have to have confidence that President Trump will win in the end. And I think in the end he will. The CCP's efforts to overthrow the U.S. government, the evidence of this really will come out. And I think in the end he will defeat the CCP. Thank you, Luda.
So please remember, and we have discussed, there are three streams of power. First of all, the power of the fortune, the wealth. They are way more powerful than the CCP at this point, because CCP is so wealthy that even they're more wealthy than America, and who could be more wealthy than CCP would be definitely Vatican City, and secondly, the political influence. And if the president is only some person in the retirement house, and the political influence represents those hidden power, because for the presidents, they couldn't just use those armies all the time. And this would be the hidden power which matters the most. And for the presidential transition, and according to sources, yesterday from the new Federal State of China's episode, you can see that president have this whole set of biological identification, which could be used to command the soldiers, those armies. Otherwise, from my experience to do the business, if you don't have this kind of system, you will be overthrown by those staff, and you'll be just a puppet on the string, and your sales manager, those connections will be taken away, and this will be the same. So this biological identification system, this is the whole package. And the most important one is like the political power, because for these few years, new Federal State of China, we have this intelligence power, because without this power, frankly, and for new Federal State of China, we couldn't just rely on those empty words or those passions. And for Mr. Bannon, who was saying, if he only just and talk just talk in a war room, and this wouldn't be finished because through our contact with Mr. Bannon, this was all just verified because for the political the influence it's not just about the soldiers, those armies, because CCP armies couldn't be more weak because you have to be more powerful than the CCP in the political influence. I didn't understand that time because we are from the China, we are from those terrible land, just like New Federation of China. Even if you could infiltrate CCP's agent system, you couldn't just be more powerful than those people. And so in America, for those Christian in the United States, there only have 50 million Christian people, and for those Christians, if you want to convince them that CCP is the red dragon, CCP is the Satan, is those antichrist, I believe we almost reached the boiling point. And for the boiling point, we just waiting for the American people for their because for those politicians, they're just like prostitutes. If they're paid well, they would just help. They would do anything. This is basically all about the interests. And for those minorities and who are not like this, but we're just talking about those majority politicians, because the reason why CCP could control Washington is because CCP could just pay those politicians, and for those election of for even raising up those such a senator, the CCP could help them to manipulate those election process, and it was just very easy to cultivate such a senator in America. If you have enough the sufficient funds, is quite easy if you just knock on the right door. And for those people, they couldn't reach the boiling point. That is why CCP is facing those difficult situation. They would just go to Washington and do the lobbying things. So for reaching to the boiling point, we have to make American people to know the truth. So for the politicians, you can't just rely on those politicians, because they would change their mind anytime, just like mccain. Because I have, from my experience about the business, I know all those experts, they're all about the money. If you pay them more, they will just follow you with their knowledge. And if you have other connection, or if you can control their weaknesses, they will just follow you. There is no so-called righteous people, because I have experienced too much about those kind of dark things. Because even if you have the best offer, the best contract, other people can still use their connection to destroy your bids. And for President Trump, he might not believe in this corruption, this severe corruption in America, because he wants to have this hope in the Republican Party. He finally understand that there's basically no one support him in the Republican Party, because at the most important moment, he wouldn't believe that those people wouldn't support him. And at the end, Anhong has drawn a conclusion. So from perspective of law, the American Congress has certified Joe Biden be the president-elect, and for these 13 days, whether President Trump could overturn the situation and then could just break the restrictions, we're just looking forward to it. And with all this analysis, our supporters, please do not be impatient, because from perspective of law, it seems that this battleground has finished. But for our audiences, if you have watched those previous episodes, I hope that you can recall something else. And for the interview with the Archbishop, I hope our audiences, that you can understand there's another higher, more powerful people, more powerful than CCP, and they could control the situation. And lastly, in those China TV series, for those people who always rely on the bigger power, they couldn't believe they're destroyed by those people they once trust the most. And until now, I believe President Trump has completely understand what kind of situation he's facing, and he would definitely be fight till the end. And back to Luda. So this will be the end for today's show. Please like and share. I'll see you next episode. Have a wonderful day.